this is probably the wrong thing. What's noteworthy about this, especially this week, is that this game was released 25 years ago, 2 days ago. So it just hit its 25th anniversary, and there are a lot of Twitter exchanges with the original developers and things going on. So this is very, very topical, very of the moment. Do you know a lot about the history of Rise of the Triad and its wanton and gratuitous violence?
Too much. Actually, commenting on that, they were the first game to get 4 on the RSAC for wanton and gratuitous violence.
Sure.
All the id Software games were 3. So that tells you a little bit something about this game before we even play it.
Well, because you're shooting digitized versions of, you're shooting digitized versions of members of Apogee staff. I mean, that's who all the enemies are in this game.
I think it's more because when you fire a rocket at something, it eviscerates them and eyeballs come out, and that's why. But it's still,
I'm saying you're not killing zombies or demons. You're killing actual, I guess, corporate thugs. So do you know the whole story of the development of this game?
I do, but I want to hear you tell it, honestly.
I talk too much on this podcast, but so Rise of the Triad started out as a sequel to Wolfenstein 3D. It was supposed to be a true sequel to it, unlike Spear of Destiny, which was really more of like a level pack. And so it was being developed at id, and then in '93, Tom Hall, who was one of the sort of creatives at id, who had done the Commander Keen series and things like that, he's sort of the guy behind that, had a falling out with John Carmack. Tom Hall leaves, goes to Apogee, and then right around the same time, just before Doom's released, John Romero calls up I think Scott Miller at Apogee and says, hey, remember Rise of the Triad that you guys were going to publish? We're canceling it. And Tom Hall and Steve Miller are like, whoa. We put a lot of effort in that. We got a lot of art assets. We did all this work on it. Why don't we salvage this somehow? Not as a Wolfenstein sequel, but as something. So Tom Hall goes back and rewrites the story, but keeps the Nazis in, so that there's still sort of like continuity between Wolfenstein and this. So now the story behind Rise of the Triad, and it's not about Chinese gangs. It's not that kind of triad. The story behind Rise of the Triad is that Hitler was actually a puppet of like 3 massive corporations, and now that he's gone, they have to try to assert world dominance again, and they've created a V3 rocket that they're going to use to bring the world to its knees. But all you really need to do if you're a large corporation to have global dominance is to offer free shipping and to lock people in with your instant video.
Okay, so didn't know we were going there.
What I'm saying is the story's already not great, and the Hitler connection is like unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Hall left it over some like falling out over like the Doom Bible, and I don't see how this is a representation of what the Doom Bible was supposed to.
Right.
Anyway,
I know. So
when I think
of Tom Hall, I think about like the whimsy and lighthearted nature of games like Commander Keen, and but then when he goes over Apogee, he's like, okay, well, let's make a game about evil corporations that were the ones that were propping up Hitler, and we'll make a dark game and a dark story, and then that's how this came about. Now, as was originally planned, this is using Wolfenstein 3D's engine, kind of. They have hacked the utter shit out of this engine.
God.
And you might notice a special thank you in the credits in the beginning to the creator of the build engine, Ken Silverman. So,
yeah, I don't know exactly what he did.
I don't know what his involvement in it. He doesn't talk about it on his website, but
yeah, somebody
spent a lot of time making this look like absolutely no other Wolfenstein engine game there is. Like,
yeah. Well, I heard that Carmack took a little bit of pity on them and gave them some sprite scaling code. He obviously didn't update like the 3D engine, but he did update the sprite scaling, which is why the sprites look a little nicer. I think it's the same code as Doom for the sprites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously aesthetically, we're seeing something, or like technologically, this is something which is much more
aesthetically.
okay.
So I mean, every shooter game from this era has an aesthetic, and this one is just so bad because
right.
the one limitation they couldn't hack around is that walls have to be at 90 degrees angles, and it creates these wonderful corporate hellscapes, I guess. But
I guess it's a corporate hellscape. Well, and you still can't have rooms over rooms or anything like that. You still have one floor surface. So when you go up in the air, you're just going over another surface up there, and you go back down again. But they found a way to
all the ceilings are the same height.
Yeah,
which is
weird. Let's talk about some of these things in situ here. So one of the things they added to this game is that it has multiple characters. Now you can't play as them in the shareware release. This originally was from 1994, and they shipped the game in February of '95. But there are multiple characters, and they have different amounts of health, and they have different levels of accuracy, which is interesting / infuriating. But it's much more elaborate. Obviously, this is much more elaborate than Wolfenstein was. And some other things have been added as well. So I'll pick up this heat-seeking rocket launcher thing. Now, as you can see, I can go on this platform and it will elevate me in the air.
Oh, yes.
And they were really interested in what they could do with that. So here's the Gibbs.
Yes.
The Gibbs, as they're called. And some splash damage there. Which is fun and interesting, especially when you're playing in multiplayer mode. And they have some environmental hazards. These are kind of
moving walls,
moving columns of lava.
Yeah.
And if you touch them, you'll die.
They are lava, yes.
More interestingly, if the enemies touch them, they'll die. And the enemies aren't very smart about avoiding them and tend to go right into them. So if we just kind of hide behind one, eventually, he will run himself over. And that will be the end of that. So there are these jump pads.
AI. Oh yeah,
the
jump
crazy
pads.
Purple jump pads, right? So if we kind of go around this one, we can go underneath this section, and we'll find some more people over here. You notice that I missed that guy, and the reason is that these floating stairs kind of got in the way. So they can't do room over room, but what they figured out is they could use static objects to slowly raise your height so that you could create something that's kind of like a staircase and kind of like a room.
Yeah, they called these GADs, gravitational anomaly discs or something.
Right, which is like we figured out some way to make something that's like a staircase because it's 1995. Doom has come out. Dark Forces has come out. Doom 2 is out.
Yeah. Apparently it's a gigantic hack, though, because they had to, place these and...
Right.
Exactly right. It sounds like a nightmare to develop this, but anyway, this engine has a lot of weird features, like you can blow up some items. In fact, the priest porridge, which you got to increase your health, if you fire a rocket at it, it will become hot priest porridge, and it will give you more health. They thought of everything with this game.
They thought of everything. I know. Which and so here's one of my mini beefs with this game. Do you see this nice sort of arch of power-ups here? Also bouncing enemies. They love to use the bouncers. So this is something that obviously is reminiscent of a platform game, right? And very reminiscent of other Tom Hall games like Commander Keen, where you have a section with a like in Mario games, right? You have coins in a little parabolic shape, and you do a jump and you get all the coins. And they've dropped that in here. But first-person shooters at this point are not like platforming challenges and collectathons are not really part of the genre, and it feels out of place both mechanically and thematically in this game. But I'm like, oh, look at this! I'm enjoying the joy of jumping with my jump pads, and I could. Oh,
Wait, does anything thematically make sense in this game?
Not really.
The other thing that we're not going to get to, but they have sort of regular weapons, like military weapons, but they also have magic weapons eventually. And there's like a baseball bat that shoots fire, and then there's the Hand of God. And then because they had God mode, they had to add dog mode, of course.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, because
of course.
It has all of those whimsical elements that I expect from like a Tom Hall game, but it's supposed to be this like dark game about evil corporations. Okay, so this is another thing they added. This is actually a wall. It's transparent glass, and people are parading around behind
Break
it. So, and there's a guy who's taking a nap. More free sport. So, I played this for a while, and I was surprised by how little enjoyment I was actually getting out of it. Even compared to, remember last time we played Heretic, and Heretic it's using the Doom engine to fairly good effect. I'm gonna get lots of splash damage on myself. But I felt like the levels were much more interesting. And I felt, not to mention that everything was more legible, like its use of color was more like Doom. And, even if it was derivative of Doom, it was up there, like the keycard sequences and stuff, all that starts in the first level. I knew how to play, I was having fun very quickly, but no matter how much I play this, I don't really enjoy it. And what do you think?
Certainly Doom and Heretic are beautiful when compared to this. Like, I had to go back and forth and look at, a well-constructed Doom level just to restore, my...
Just to remember
restore, like, 95 did have some good shooters, or 94. Just to remind myself that was true, because it's just a very difficult aesthetic to like. The one good thing about this game is the music's kind of good, but everything else, it just feels wrong. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it does feel kind of odd. So I'm not a big fan of this. I think they have a huge number of players that can participate in multiplayer. I think it's like isn't the cap like 10 or 11 or something? It's like it's much bigger than it was in Doom, and it's called Combat because that's cute. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I'm wondering if a lot of Rise of the Triad play was just multiplayer. Some of these weird weapons seem like they'd be a lot of fun. Like Rise of the Triad almost plays like a kind of Doom multiplayer mod with wacky weapons and things like that, except without obviously the engine capabilities of Doom. But they've hacked. It's so funny, they hacked so much of Doom into it because you have vertical. You have vertical look to a certain extent. You've got you got fake staircases. You've got what appear to be kind of multi-tiered levels, but not really. I think the lesson here. I think the lesson here is that hiring Ken Silverman to make the build engine was like the best thing that Apogee ever did. It was the best. It was the best use of their time and money, even though it took him kind of a long time to do that. The way this gun fires is almost like Marathon. The low rate fire and so 3D Realms is going to come back to challenge Doom right around when it has moved on to real polygons and real 3D with Quake, and those games will be like whimsical and fun, but they'll have but that's like the only carryover with Rise of the Triad. Everything else, the levels are going to be much more sort of intricate and have more interesting like sequence to them, and they're just going to be easier to read and play, and like the secrets are going to be more interesting because of the capabilities of the build engine. And Blood, Shadow Warrior, and Duke Nukem 3D like are all games that, regardless of what you think about them, are it's hard to say that those are not fun games to play. They are fun games to play. And this game didn't quite get that, I feel. And every time I get shot, I get that awesome.
It's really hard, even on shoe toy difficulty. Anyway,
surprisingly. I mean, mostly just because you don't get enough ammo for the like heat seeker bazooka.
Well, you have to find all the secrets, and I don't know. I just can't find that shade of
that particular shade of puce or like off mauve that everything in this game is.
Yeah.
So I didn't get. I guess because I haven't had enough people lined up, I didn't get the famous Ludicrous Gibbs screen. Where is that random? I got a hand on that one. Is it random that you get the Ludicrous Gibbs?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm appalled for the children.
The children. I think the children, even the children, knew that they'd be better off playing Doom, honestly, than this one. So I think this is one of the areas you need to go to. Maybe my character doesn't have the same accuracy as their character does. So that was fun.
There's a lot of ways to exit. Activate the guillotine.
So many ways. Look, it's only $34.95 if you want the CD-ROM version. Super Triad. Comes with everything. You can use the shiny surface of the underside of the disc to blind foes. I guess it's useful in multiplayer, but presumably, I guess it doesn't have DRM, so you don't have to have the disc in during play. So that's good.